Yeah, the Tarik Skubal rumor thing. I don't know. It kind of won't go away. Maybe it's good. Maybe there's more meat to it. Maybe there's more fire to this smoke. So we're going to talk about the latest with Tarik Skubal to the Dodgers rumors today on the show, along with other amounts of Dodgers headlines that we have not hit from this week. And we got to talk about the Mets because lol Mets. All of that on this edition of All Dodgers. But I was winding up real hard for that one. Coming at you live from my home studio in beautiful La Puente, California. This is the All Dodgers podcast. We hit some meh, part of the Bleav Network of podcasts presented by FanDuel is the show. I am Clint Pasillas. Find me as Real FRG on the social media. That guy that way, I pointed the correct direction, is Jeff Snyder. Find him as Snydog on the social media machine. Jeff, we got kind of some stuff today. Of course, we haven't been live since Edwin Diaz became officially a Dodger, and that's exciting. That is crazy. I didn't see that one happening. Got another one. I kind of don't see happening. I think a lot of people don't see happening, but this rumor kind of won't die. Tarik Skubal linked to the Dodgers. David Pingalore of the KTLA 5 bringing this thing up. First, initial thoughts before we get into the reports.
Yeah, it seems like there was at least a source of smoke causing the smoke. I don't know that it was ever actually as close as Ping Ping was saying. I don't know. I just gave him a nickname. But it does seem like, based on Bob Nightingale said that the Tigers were actively engaging with teams about Skubal, and that the Dodgers had a very intriguing package. Phrasing,
giggity.
Right?
Yeah, that's a giggity.
Yeah.
Wait, actually, I have a button. There. Okay, continue.
It does seem. Now I'm just thinking about the thing I sent you on Instagram a few minutes ago. It does, though, seem like there's something going on there, and it doesn't seem like it's out of the question that Skubal could be traded. And if he is, it's not out of the question that it could be to the Dodgers,
Yeah, I mean, we have often opined that the Dodgers are better equipped than just about any team, if not every team in baseball, to go out and get a little bit of whoever they want. It's weird that this is not a need to land another frontline starter. It's absolutely a want. But yeah, if you're looking at some of the potential trade packages, we've seen some rumors mentioning Emmett Sheehan and Tyler Glasnow. Well, you're immediately going to have a better four when you ship away Glasnow and you bring in somebody like Tarik Skubal. But yeah, let's get into the Pingalore side of things here. The update, I cropped out the time, so I forget if this was this morning or late yesterday, but David Pingalore, who is an anchor for local TV news here in Los Angeles, saying that he is hearing the Skubal deal is done. I think he has some sort of connection to the Tigers GM, Scott Harris, I believe his name is, but he's saying the pieces are agreed to, and there is essentially a deal in place. And I applaud our friend Frank Martinez on the social media for having the call back to Michael Duarte's Bryce Harper on the 10-yard line, and of course Hornstra and his what is it again? The not a drill Shohei to Toronto, but you mentioned the Bob Nightingale side of this. It seems to give it a little bit more teeth than anything else. But it's he mentions also Tigers won't greenlight a deal without the owner's sign off, and I don't know. It seems like trading away your superstar for a pile of dudes might be a tough sell for a team that's just kind of starting to build into a kind of contender.
Yeah, first of all, I did look. That tweet was from late last night, Orlando time, about 9:30 p.m. Eastern last night is when Pingalore sent that tweet. And
Ping.
Realistically, that could all be accurate, that the Tigers and Dodgers agreed, hey, if we can get Skubal to agree to an extension, we will send you these guys for him. And the Tigers said, okay, we like that trade. But that's a very big caveat there of, hey, if this Scott Boras client, who is probably the second best pitcher in baseball and is a year away from free agency, will agree to forego his free agency and sign an extension with us, then we'll make this trade. Because, the more I've thought about it, the more I agree with everybody who's saying it doesn't make sense for the Dodgers to give up what it would take to get Skubal unless they have an extension in place, a la Tyler Glasnow. And the problem is, like I said the other day, Tarik Skubal has the track record that Tyler Glasnow didn't have. Talent-wise, you could make a case that Tyler Glasnow is pretty close talent-wise to Tarik Skubal. Track record, especially health track record, dominance, winning back-to-back Cy Young Awards, all those things. Tarik Skubal's done them. Tyler Glasnow hadn't. And so there was plenty of reason for Tyler Glasnow to agree to a long-term extension to come to the Dodgers. I don't know that there's that same reason for Skubal, except if we're thinking about the looming labor strife and the potential
that's a big thing
for changes to the financial structure of the game, where it's possible that maybe Tarik Skubal could get a better deal from the Dodgers right now than he might get in free agency after this year or after next year. It's, there's reasons why he would at least consider it, I would think. But it's, you can see a lot of moving parts here. And I think all of that adds up to why it's so unlikely that anything gets done, just because so many things would have to fall into place for it to happen.
Yeah, I don't disagree with the idea that maybe Ping has at least parts of some accurate reports for sure. But is it still the best for both sides, realistically? Our buddy Francisco Diaz with the $4.99 super chat.
Edwin's cousin.
Edwin Diaz's cousin, of course, long lost cousin, said, for what it's worth, the same guy that broke the rumor is the same guy that said LeBron was being traded, yet he's still on the Lakers, so he doesn't believe, and adds for $1.99. Never trust a Clippers reporter. Appreciate Smurfy24 Doey, however the hell you're supposed to say that. We're just going to call him Francisco Diaz moving forward for sure. And also, $10 from Seth Klein, being back in the chat. Good to see you, Seth. Hope all
Will Klein's
is well.
cousin.
Will Klein's cousin, that is a World Series champion cousin right there. Not actually his cousin, but the prodigal Seth returns. Dodgers are filling holes. Mets are making them. Yeah, we'll talk about the Mets a little bit later on in the show. Also got $1 from Michelada Poppy. Appreciate the guys, you guys supporting us in the Super Chats. With the Super Chats, appreciate people also hanging out with us in the chat. I've seen friends in here, of course. Richie, Diane, we already mentioned Michelada Poppy, Matty Man 5 Dodge, whole bunch of folks. BC in the chat. I see Corey in the chat. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Make sure you subscribe, like the show, all that kind of stuff. If you haven't done it yet, we're trying to get to 25,000 subscribers, and we would appreciate it somehow. We can get there somehow before the new year is upon us. So let's continue talking Tarik Skubal. We have one side of the report from David Pingalore, and just about maybe 2 hours ago, Bob Nightingale adds a little more intrigue to it via the USA Today publication. Saying, that the Tigers surprise teams by engaging in serious trade talks, or at least shopping around Tarik Skubal to see what they can get. And we're intrigued by the Dodgers' potential package of prospects, which triggered these trade rumors. Again, like we said a few minutes ago, if the Dodgers are going to, if Dodgers want somebody, they could find a way to get them. The fact that you don't have you probably wouldn't have an extension in place because this dude is about to, even if the CBA goes wonky, he's still going to get a bag next offseason, and he's going to get years and all that kind of stuff. If he doesn't get the bag, there's not going to be baseball in 2027. That's what I feel like. They're not going, the Players Association is not going to let them like completely denut the players from being able to secure years and get deferrals and get a bunch of money. So there's that side of it. But the Dodgers have the tools and the talent to make a deal like this happen. It's just, it'll keep circling back to, does it make sense? And I don't think it does, An unpopular opinion?
Yeah. Yeah. From a Dodger standpoint, like I said this to somebody on Twitter today, it always makes sense to get the second best pitcher in baseball, even when it doesn't make sense. The Tarik Skubal would make every team in baseball better right now. And the Dodgers are looking for every possible way to get better. There is the fact that, kind of like I talked about when the Padres traded for Mason Miller at the trade deadline last year, the Padres already had a great bullpen. And so Miller wasn't as much of an upgrade for the Padres as he would have been for some other teams. The same thing applies with Skubal to the Dodgers because they already have the best starting rotation in baseball. But again, like I said the other day, they don't have the 6 best pitchers in baseball. And so Skubal would make it better. And so from a Dodger standpoint, it absolutely makes sense. They have the prospect capital to give the Tigers whatever they want and still have a very good farm system. A lot of good potential, big leaguers coming up through the farm system, all that. They could do it. And if the Dodgers went to Skubal and Boris and said, look, we want to make this trade and we want to sign you to an extension that starts in 2026 and it's 8 years, $300 million. It's probably not what Skubal would get in free agency, but would they factor in, okay, Skubal could blow out his arm next year. Skubal, labor strife could impact all these things. When, as they say, 300 million birds in the hand is worth more than 400 potential birds in the future bush. I think that's exactly how it goes.
Yeah,
I think Shakespeare said that.
I've seen that on white women's walls in their kitchen in the past. So, oh dear
English
God.
degree, baby. English degree.
Why are we breaking? Do not break the Manny Machado bobblehead.
Machado's over here on this side.
All right.
Yeah,
and
trash, already broke.
Yeah. Do not break him further. History, man. So we're focusing on the Dodger side. I want to focus a little bit more on the Tiger side. Like, again, you Tigers fans are kind of showing up and showing out for those wild card series. The Tigers are not good, but the AL Central is weak, and the Tigers are better than what they're filling out there, what they're throwing out there consistently in the Central. History Man had pointed out Tigers were an extra inning away from the ALCS. Key hit or home run away. You would think they would make moves to give themselves a better chance at a deep postseason run. Now, you could argue that trading away your one ace for 2 number 2s or a 2 and a 3, or however you want to view. Let's say this trade does have Glasnow and does have Emmett Sheehan in the mix, along with certainly other talent. That other talent could be major league ready guys. Could be an Alex Freeland who would most likely help their infield right away. Another Dodger kind of utility, doesn't have a place infielder going to Detroit. They seem to love throwing him over there. Shout out Zach McKinstry. Shout out the other kid. I was going to say, it was not Noah Miller, but I forget his name. Trey Sweeney going over there as well. It's hard to envision them trading away their kind of meal ticket and their ace when they are in a kind of win now mode, because I don't think they're going to get much better than they are at this moment.
Yeah. And that kind of is an argument in both directions, because the fact is the 2025 Tigers weren't a great team. They won 87 games. They got a wild card spot, and then they lost, a 7-game series, 5-game series in the division series to the Mariners. Took it to the limit, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Great song.
But
Great
you look
Eagles
at their, but you look at their team, and their pitching isn't great. Mm-hmm. They have Jack Flaherty and Casey Mize are their 2 big starters behind Skubal. Yeah. Flaherty was pretty bad. Mize was okay. And then you look at their offense, they don't have any great hitters. I think their best hitter was Riley Green, and he also led the league with 201 strikeouts. Mm-hmm. But he was their only guy with the OPS plus. They only had 2 guys with the OPS plus over 113, Spencer Torkelson and Riley Green at 117 and 120. So, Zach McKinstry was their 3rd best hitter. I feel like that's the sentence I should have started with this to illustrate that they're not a great team. Yeah. All-star Zach McKinstry apparently also won the Silver Slugger for utility players. So congratulations to him. I love Zach McKinstry, but the Tigers aren't a great team.
No.
And Skubal is under contract for one more year. So while I understand History Man's point that why would they get rid of their best player when they do have a chance to compete for something, do they really have a realistic chance of winning the World Series? Like the fact that they took the division series to 5 games, it doesn't strike me as very realistic that the Tigers are going to actually compete for a World Series title in 2026, even if they make the playoffs. So if they're not going to compete for a World Series title, then like you said, maybe you can stock up and you can get
a little closer to at least
2 guys to go, Casey Mize and Jackson Jobe in the rotation for 27, 28. Guys who can actually make that a good rotation. And then maybe you get a couple prospects who can help your offense down the road. I don't know what intriguing packages they were talking about, but you can definitely understand the logic of the Tigers wanting to say, if we can get a bunch of stuff for this dude, you look at the Nationals and what they got for Juan Soto. And the fact that, it hasn't worked out for the Nationals as far as actual success, but they got Mackenzie Gore and CJ Abrams and James Wood.
Yeah.
And
who ended up being the sneaky best guy in that deal, if we're being honest.
For one superstar. Mm-hmm. And so if the Tigers could do that and do a better job than the Nationals did of building around those guys, which they are starting from a higher point than the Nationals are. Nationals were going from, okay, we're the worst team, and we just added these guys, and that's why they never did get to being a good team, but they got to being better than they were. So if the Tigers can go from being a solid team and then add a bunch of guys who can be part of their core for the next few years, it would make sense. But kind of like Bob Nightingale said, it doesn't make sense for a team to give up enough to make it worth it to the Tigers unless that team can lock Skubal down to an extension.
Yeah. That last part is what makes this, it says on the screen, Skubal rumor the real deal. It's the rumor in itself, in and of itself, is probably the real deal, the reality. I think there's a little bit more smoke than fire with this one because it's a Scott Boras client. He's not going to not go to free agency. I don't care what people assume or presume will happen with the CBA next year and a potential, work stoppage and all of that. Boras wants that dude on the free agent market.
And I will make my standard Scott Boras point that the agent works for the player. Mm-hmm. Allegedly. If Tarik Skubal wants to go to the Dodgers and sign an extension, he will. The way I always put it is players who hire Scott Boras are generally players who want to test out free agency.
Yeah.
That's why you hire Scott Boras. You don't hire Scott Boras to help you negotiate an extension as part of a trade. If you're Cody Bellinger, the reason Cody Bellinger switched from Ballingy to Scott Boras is because Cody Bellinger won Rookie of the Year and said, I'm going to make money at some point. I want Scott Boras being the one helping me make that money. That's why you choose Scott Boras as your agent, because you want to make that money. But like Blake Snell last year, he didn't wait around. He didn't, he did go to free agency, but he chose the Dodgers. And there were things other than money, even though he's a Boras client. He said, I'm coming to the Dodgers because I want to win a World Series. And ultimately it is up to the player. But Scott Boras is very good at getting money for his players in free agency, and that's why they hire him.
We're going to take a pause for a second so we can fulfill our obligation to tell you guys about FanDuel, because if there's a team that is ready and primed to win the World Series, it is the Dodgers. And Jeff, I don't know if you've checked over on the FanDuel Sportsbook today, but the Dodgers odds have actually gotten better since we've last spoken about them. They are now at the top of the list, plus 270 favorites. Wow. Yankees at plus 750 at the moment. Maybe the odds makers over at FanDuel got a little inkling that there's a Skubal rumor going on, or maybe Edwin Diaz coming to the Dodgers just makes him that much better. But
yeah, because it was plus 360 when we talked the other day.
Yeah, it's been plus like 340, 350, 360 in that pocket for weeks, it feels like. So that's it makes me feel a little bit better knowing that the Dodgers are in a better position, if at least by 2026 World Series odds. They're in a better position than they were a week ago, and maybe that makes somebody like Tarik Skubal say, you know what, push a trade through. I want to go there. I want to win the World Series, and then I'll go test free agency after coming out from the Dodgers, and maybe that makes a package a little bit smaller from that's a tough way of saying that. It makes a prospect haul not as robust if he doesn't have a contract extension under his belt or in the works or something like that. But anyways, shout out to FanDuel for sponsoring this part of the show. I want to reset. I want to play a audio clip, or at least a video and audio clip from David Pingalore on ESPN LA today. We'll talk a little bit more about Skubal, take some comments on it, and then we'll move on. We do have other things to talk about on this edition of the show, but here's more David Pingalore with Mason and Ireland this afternoon.
You've got the scoop about the Dodgers and Tarik Skubal.
Scott Harris, the general manager of the Tigers, was trying to make the best deal he possibly can. Harris is in the driver's seat here. He wants guys that can come into the Tigers situation and kind of get going. He doesn't want guys 6-7 years out. Dodgers actually have guys in a package that they could package up for a guy who's going to be a free agent after next year. That would be Tarik Skubal, two-time, obviously, Cy Young Award winner. Feels like that's the best fit. He's a West Coast guy. Went to Seattle University from Northern California. I think the Mets are also in play here, but the Dodgers are certainly the front runners because Harris is already on record saying we're going to deal this guy before he becomes a free agent next year.
Right.
So,
do you have a sense of what would be included in a package if this deal gets done?
I know Emmett Sheehan would certainly be in that package. And this is going to have to be a major blockbuster deal where obviously the Dodgers can afford the salary from a free agent standpoint of $300 to $400 million. Question is, they're going to want to go out there and give him 10 years. I mean, he's a 29-year-old guy. They have the right pieces for what the Tigers are looking for, and they have the money to pay him.
Well, maybe listening to Ping there makes some folks feel better about a potential Skubal deal. Yeah, they have the pieces. It would certainly be a headliner with Emmett Sheehan at the top. And if there is Glasnow, that sort of meets that criteria of guys that are going to help them win now and not necessarily 6 or 7 years away. But they, as we've been kind of talking around here, they're not just, a pitcher or two away from advancing in the AL side of the postseason. They need some bats. They need some guys who could put bat to ball that are ready now. And I don't know that the Dodgers necessarily have a lot of those guys ready and that they're willing to send over.
Yeah, unless I don't know who plays DH for the Tigers, but if they want it to be Teoscar Hernandez,
that is a bat.
Colt Keith was their primary DH last year, so
it's a strong name.
Teoscar Hernandez would probably be an upgrade over him, depending on which version of Teoscar Hernandez shows up. I saw somebody in the chat saying that they are definitely out if Emmett Sheehan's involved. Interesting point. Emmett Sheehan is only 3 years younger than Tarik Skubal. We think of Sheehan as being young because he is fairly inexperienced in the big leagues, but he is almost exactly 3 years younger than him, younger than Skubal, just less than 3 years younger. Sheehan turned 26 last month. Skubal turned 29 last month. And so I love Emmett Sheehan, and I won't be heartbroken if the Dodgers hold on to him. Mm-hmm. But for me, looking at Tarik Skubal, if it takes Emmett Sheehan to get Skubal, if we're not talking about 1 year, if we're talking about actually having Skubal for, the length of time that the Tigers would have Sheehan, then I am on board with that. I'm not itching to get rid of Sheehan, but I like me some Tarik Skubal.
Yeah, he's they're both pretty good in their own way, but one is definitely has 2 Cy Young awards on his mantle, and the other one has one pretty decent season coming off of Tommy John. love Emmett Sheehan. If you find a way to improve that spot with Tarik Skubal, yeah, and in a vacuum, make that move in a heartbeat. But at some point, I would like to see the Dodgers kind of use some of their dudes for themselves. Maybe not trade them. I don't know. I don't want to keep talking in circles with that. I want to hit some of the chat here because there are definitely a number of people who have the opinion of if you're trying to win now, you do everything you can to win now. Tark the Shark saying everything should be done to three-peat this year. The window is open now. What else did I have? The Enigma in the chat. Why are we overthinking this? It's Tarik Skubal. You sign Tarik Skubal if he's available. Signing is different than trading for sure, but it could be one of those trades.
And that is an interesting point that a year from now, Skubal will be a free agent. Mm-hmm. And so if he's open to an extension, then the Dodgers have to get involved because what if some other team trades for him and gets the extension? But if Skubal's going to free agency, there's a real good case to be made for the Dodgers to just say, hey, next year we'll give you a crap ton of money.
I mean, I'm not against, don't drop Manny Machado about that.
That was Manny Machado that I accidentally knocked over with my water bottle. Knocked his head off.
Clean off right there. All right, more into the chat here. $4.99 from our buddy Richie Flores saying, I will be playing pickup sticks with my butt cheeks before Skubal as a Dodger. Mets had a great week. Sincerely, the Raiders ownership group. And, Kevin's not here, but he is catching strays as a Raiders fan. Michelada Poppy with $5 in the chat. Thank you, Michelada Poppy. Dodgers are ruining baseball by trying to make the team better by adding great players. That's one way to do it for sure. Tarik Skubal is a great player, but they also have a lot of great players, good players, living players, in my opinion. Let's see. Raul with the $4.99 super chat. Thank you very much, Raul. Tigers find themselves like the Angels. You can't trade your best player and face of the franchise, can you? That's the big thing, and I think that's ultimately going to be the biggest thing that hamstrings a trade. Although, I mean, Pingalore saying in that audio clip that they have made it known, I don't know how accurate that is, but the Tigers have made it known that they would like to trade him before he becomes a free agent, something the Angels could not do with Shohei Ohtani 3 years ago.
And how has that worked out for the Angels? That's an argument in favor of the Tigers trading Skubal.
And, the argument then becomes, can you get the most for him now or can you get the most for him at the trade deadline? Well, I mean, trade deadline is definitely a premium, so I'm sure they are happy to sit on their hands unless the perfect deal comes their way at this point. And I think we'll know by the trade deadline if the Dodgers, the Dodgers, we will confirm that they already have a pretty damn good starting rotation with all of those names and talent. Another $4.99 from Francisco Diaz. First ping, then Nightingale. Now all we need is JP Hornsford to say Skubal to LA, and we'll have the trinity of false reporters. Let's get an outfielder. It's bad I was about to read that as an OnlyFans, but maybe. We get enough super chats tonight. We won't need to start an OnlyFans. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. $5 from Seth. Hit the gong, hit the money. If we don't get it, I think I already said that. We'll get him in free agency, or if not, I said something akin to that. What else do we got? Raul making the argument for trading away prospects. Remember when Bobby Miller, Diego Cartaya, and Miguel Vargas were the future? Trade the prospects. The difference here in some of the names we are mentioning, and then we will move on, I think, shortly hereafter. We're talking about a couple of guys who are currently in the starting rotation with Emmett Sheehan and Tyler Glasnow. Again, assuming those are dudes that are at the top of, the top two names in a trade package, and you would have to assume somebody like Josue De Paula. I would assume a Alex Freeland in there. I would also potentially assume, I don't know, maybe another one of the outfielders, but it's got to be worth their time, and they're not going to add a lot of money. The Tigers, so they're not going to want to take on, in my opinion, I don't think they'll want to take on Glasnow and Teoscar Hernandez, even if it means getting better. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't know. They might be willing to spend money, and some teams can't get players to take their money, so they have to trade for the players who have already taken the money from somebody else. You look at the Giants, couldn't get anybody to take their money, so they traded for Rafael Devers, who had taken the money for the Red Sox. The Tigers might be in that situation where they're not going to attract free agents, but, Tyler Glasnow may have never signed with the Tigers, But now that he's under contract, they could get him, and then he's under contract with them. So it may not be that they don't want to spend money. It may be that they know that Tarik Skubal isn't staying with them after next year.
Yeah.
And so get guys who are under contract for longer, whether that is Tyler Glasnow, who's under contract for a lot of money, or Emmett Sheehan, who's under contract for not very much money, or, Teoscar Hernandez, who is under contract for 2 more years at pretty reasonable money if he remembers how to hit, especially if he's playing DH. And so he's not dragging things down with his defense. I don't know enough about Little Caesars to know. Is that still who owns the Tigers?
The Ilitch family. Yeah, I believe so.
Know how into spending money they are.
Not
but
not as much as Mike. Mike Ilitch wanted to spend.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I don't know that they wouldn't be interested in a package of some highly paid guys.
Yeah. Maybe. I mean, if they feel that this is their window, a lot of moving pieces, obviously, to this thing, but it at least feels like there's a little bit of something, a little bit of momentum, in favor of, I don't know, it's not necessarily my favor, to make it kind of to pull from history, looking at precedent in the past of how we've seen these things kind of happen with the Dodgers. I always like to go back to the Mookie Betts trade because they were having those conversations months before it happened. Even if a Skubal deal doesn't happen now, it doesn't mean it can't happen at the trade deadline, or it doesn't mean it can't happen in February. That's it. Not much to say to that. Maybe there's something spicy going on here. It's very difficult for me to envision it. However, I also didn't see them going out and landing Edwin Diaz. So what the hell do I know?
As what was the guy's name on
I.E. Doyer
guy?
Yeah.
I.E. Doyer. If you haven't seen it, Clint got called out hardcore on his pessimism about Edwin Diaz. Used his own words against him, and it was a well done video. Check that out on Twitter.
Big shout out. I.E. Doyer does, even when it's against me, does some really, really just like when he has the time, does some great edits. He's done them for years involving me and shows that I have done. Always appreciate seeing a little bit of effort and love, even when it's maybe trash talky. I don't know. Appreciate that kind of stuff. But hey, there's 30 some odd minutes about Tarik Skubal. If you guys feel different and you're watching this after we're live, let us know in the comments below what you think about Skubal coming to the Dodgers. If you think that's a reality, if you really, really want to see it, and put together your best trade packages, and we'll send those over to the Ilitch family and Scott Harris to start making those things, a reality. Probably not. We don't have that kind of power. Moving on, there are other Dodgers headlines of the day. I first want to get into more of the chat here. We got $1.99 from the Enigma in the chat saying 2024 Luka for AD, 2025 Skubal for Glasnow.
Didn't Luka for AD happen in 2025 though? I feel like it was the day of Chris Taylor's party thing on the beach, which was like the end of February.
I do want to point out that the Enigma there just I'm calling this a full indictment on Tyler Glasnow for being as injury prone as Anthony Davis. So everybody agrees with me that Glasnow is not an ace, that he's injury prone, and that's why he's not an ace.
Let's get an Anthony Rendon trade in there.
Hey, I'm glad nobody made that clip. I did make an argument for Rendon a couple of years ago. I didn't think he would be an absolute ghost of a human being,
One of our regular listeners yelled at me for not being more upset when the Dodgers didn't sign Anthony Rendon. He was convinced that it was proof that Dodgers ownership didn't want to win. And things turned out okay.
I mean, I guess if you like winning championships.
It turned out okay for Anthony Rendon, too. He got paid a lot of money to not do anything, which is kind of my dream job.
The Dodgers have won 3 titles since not signing Mr. Hollywood. Donovan in the chat, $4.99. Appreciate Donovan with the support on the super chats here, saying I've been listening to Timmy Trumpets all day. Get the Skubal extension done now. We got to get that trade done in principle first. And I also, watching that I.E. Doyer video, maybe I was a little harsh on the Timmy trumpets. I don't like people bringing shtick from other places to the Dodgers. I'm just weird. Maybe I'm a hipster like that, but I will agree with and respect the fact that the place would probably be thumping as soon as that starts hitting. And love that. He probably already had it in the bag, but Dieter Rule posting that video clip of him at least knowing, I got that on the fingers, I got that locked down on the keys. Yeah, it's going to be a good time for the next at least 3 seasons with Eddie Diaz is what I'm going to call him, because why not?
Yeah, we may have to rename Dieter Rule Timmy Organs.
Timmy Organs. That sounds like a serial killer, if we're being honest.
And like I said, I would prefer if they switched to Freaks by Timmy Trumpet, because I like that song more. But I discovered on Twitter that I am not in the majority in that, which is okay. I might like Freaks just because of nostalgia, because like me and my kids and my wife have listened to that song for years and sung along with us. It reminds me of my children, and maybe I'm just nostalgic like that.
So you're making it about you. What a guy. What a guy. Guys, it's the Jeff Snyder Show featuring me. No, I don't know why. Why I'm pointlessly slamming you here. Maverick 32 with the $2 super chat. Thank you very much, Maverick. Need to trade 2 to 3 top prospects now or lose to the Rule 5. Hey, call that a segue. The Rule 5 draft happened today, and guess what? The Dodgers lost. Nothing. We were, I forget the names that were kind of, we were worried about. I think Noah Miller this time is actually one of the names that was, I wouldn't say worried about, but could have been, taken in that Rule 5 draft. But this could be another one of those situations where maybe we value some Dodgers prospects more than other teams do? ?
Yeah, I think Jose Rodriguez was the only realistic possibility to get taken because he is a relief pitcher. And as we talked about when we were talking more in depth about the Rule 5 draft a couple weeks ago, relief pitchers are the guys most often taken in the Rule 5 draft because you can hide them at the back of your bullpen because you have to keep a guy in the big leagues all year. And so...
What are you barking about? My dog's upset about this conversation.
Yeah, Jose Rodriguez I thought might get taken because the team could hide him in their bullpen and see if he could figure out how to throw strikes. He wasn't taken because I don't think anybody's confident that he ever will figure out how to throw strikes because his windup is so wonky that I don't know if it's possible to throw a lot of strikes with that windup. Everybody else, it wasn't surprising. But, to the point of whoever it was that you just segued with the comment from, there are a handful of guys next year who will be Rule 5 eligible. Headlined by Josue DePaula, Jackson Ferris, Adam Serwinowski, who you may have heard of, Clint, remember?
Yeah, he came with my boy. Trade. Yeah, he came with my boy, Ron Rolvetelt.
Yeah. Patrick Copen, who had a big breakout season in the minor leagues. Christian Zazueta, who they got in the Caleb Ferguson trade, I think, from the Yankees. So they've got a handful of guys who will be eligible for next year's Rule 5 draft. And so, if you think about a guy like Josue DePaula, who might be ready for the big leagues. He'll probably be ready for the big leagues by 2027. But he's a guy who the Dodgers might look at the timing of, his Rule 5 eligibility, when we think we'll have room for him to contribute, when he'll be ready to contribute, and think we can maybe get more value for him as a trade chip than, especially because some people have concerns about DePaula's defense. Think he is a future first baseman or DH. And if he's a future DH, that makes less room for him on the Dodgers because they do have a DH already for several more years. And so things like that will come into play. So there's no immediate Rule 5 needs because, like you said, Clint, the Rule 5 draft happened today and they didn't lose anybody. And so guys like Peter Hubeck, Noah Miller, Maddox Bruns, Ronan Kopp, those guys, they are in the organization and we don't have to worry about losing them until next year's Rule 5 draft. But the batch of guys who become eligible next year, that could be a factor in when the Dodgers are thinking about packages to put together for trades.
Hey, package. Not Ronan Kopp, because he was added to the 40-man a couple weeks back, so he is protected.
That's
but
right.
Yeah, a bunch of other guys. I want to step back here and talk about, I don't know if it's clean your ass, clean you out. I don't know who it is, but this guy is saying, if we're talking about Clint's old bad takes, I remember him indicating on Dodgers Nation offseason podcast that Evan Phillips should be one of the relievers let go after his first year with us, adding, you have to dig deep to find that in the archive. But I remember liking how Evan pitched in that 2021 playoffs, and then hearing Clint say that, I was like, WTF. Now, in defense of something like that, which I don't remember, but that sounds like something I would say in defense of the Dodgers always needing roster space. That season, after they claimed him off waivers, he only pitched in 7 games, had a 3.5 ERA in that amount of time. And then, he had that one really, really good playoff game where he had to come in to bail out Joe Kelly and his shoulder falling off. But at that point, he was pretty much a complete unknown, was Evan Phillips. And I would imagine that I would have preferred more of a known commodity as a bullpen arm. Thankfully, the Dodgers didn't listen to me, and Evan Phillips had a pretty damn good run with the Dodgers for, better part of 5 years and 4 years, whatever it is, and is now a free agent. So ultimately, I win.
Yeah, and ultimately, nobody knows anything about relief pitchers.
Yeah.
And so, if we asked right now, everybody in the chat right now, all 501 people in here with us right now, should the Dodgers keep Anthony Bondo or get rid of him, we would get very strong opinions from 200 of the 500 people, and 100 would be strongly in favor of keeping him, and 100 would be strongly in favor of getting rid of him, just because nobody has any idea what Anthony Bond is going to contribute next year. It's just the nature of relief pitchers, especially, Evan Phillips in 2021. We could hope that he would turn into a big part of the Dodgers. Nobody would have actually put money on it on FanDuel.
Absolutely not. And Thankfully, again, Andrew finds a way. Andrew Friedman in this front office, they found a way to find these dudes and build them into somebody who eventually became Evan Phillips.
Is Matty Man Dodge just have a chat about your OnlyFans?
I think
he says,
so.
Is this poop on Clint night? Is that what your OnlyFans is?
Yes. It's all poop stuff. JY Kim says, gives $2 to say that I should bring the dog on as a guest host. Usually I close the door. Otherwise, he would be sitting right between my legs on the floor or sitting over here on the couch. It's Doobie Couch. But he doesn't, his takes are rough. Because you see
I didn't see that one coming. I'm disappointed that I laughed at that, but I didn't see it coming, and it just whacked me right in the face.
And clean yo ass, that's what I'm going with, says don't worry, Clint, I stayed as a listener even after all these years, and his name is Austin, so it's clean yo Austin. Appreciate you hanging out with us, Austin. Appreciate everybody being here at the chat, in the chat with us tonight. These shows where there's a lot of folks in the chat with us, they make it's a lot more fun. They're always fun.
Do we have a monopoly on Dodgers YouTube tonight?
I have no idea. I know Matt and Blake were live at the time we were going live, and with all due respect to those boys, I love them both, but I would say we are a tad more on the charismatic side than Matt Moreno and Blake Williams. But they are also fantastic and much better at their jobs than we are, because we don't even work in the industry writing about things. Anyways, moving on. And some other Dodger news.
Either. Never have.
Never have. Not once, not never. Quickly, there was a Tommy Edman thing that I did learn from the fine folks over at Dodger Blue. Checked it out. Blake Williams was at an event today where Tommy Edman was doing something with charity and kids. I don't know. Dodgers are always doing a bunch of stuff. I hate going out there, so I never go to those. I probably should go to those so they'll like me, but I don't. But anyways, Tommy Edman in a boot and with one of those little crippled carts is what I'm going to call him. Says, he's healing fine. He expects to be ready to go by spring training. Andrew Friedman added more about that. Tommy coming off ankle surgery. They expect him to be able to play some outfield, play some infield, and that probably goes into that dialogue about they're still needing to figure out what the construction of the current roster could look like before they maybe, try to land an outfielder, because if Tommy Edman is playing center field, then you kind of move everybody down and things look better, look worse. I don't know. But The important thing is Edman's healthy.
Yeah, I really think that Edman he needs to be a utility guy. That's where his best value is. Decreases a lot of the value of being able to play 6 different positions if you only play one position. Put him all over the place. When I was talking to his dad in October, like just the kind of the things he said, but even more the way he said them, you could tell it was a grind for Tommy this year. Just physically, he was never.
My eyes can tell you it was a grind for Tommy.
And so I think he's really excited to be healthy next year and see what he can do, and to be able to contribute in all the ways he wants to contribute. And so, hopefully that's at the beginning of the season. But even if it takes him a little bit longer to be ready, having a full strength Tommy Edman, he's not going to be MVP level. Yeah. But he is a guy who he doesn't strike out much when he's right. He hits the ball, hits line drives, plays good defense at multiple positions. And the health was definitely an issue for him in 2025. So I'm excited to see the Dodgers get the version of Tommy Edman that they paid for.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of folks were pretty excited about what they saw out of him, I think in March and April last year, however you want to say it, in 25, where I think he hit 8 homers in that first month and change, and then everything kind of spiraled from there where he aggravated that ankle thing. That's not his game. His game is probably a little bit closer to what we saw after. No, because I guess he also hit a bunch of dingers after he finally came off the IL, following the trade from St. Louis in 2024. He just needs to be somebody that is more consistently better than Chris Taylor was. That's what I want out of him. Bat the ball, get on base.
He's got, in his 2 years with the Dodgers, he's got 19 homers in only 530 plate appearances. So not a home run hitter. But you factor that in over a full season's worth of at-bats, and we're looking at, 25-ish home runs. That's, pretty darn good from a guy who's 3'4", 107 pounds, or whatever he is.
Yeah.
5'9", 193 according to Baseball Reference. But I mean, he's got some pop, and he's, in those 530 plate appearances, he also has 18 doubles, 2 triples. So, I mean, he's a guy who. He can do some stuff. He's not going to be a huge power hitter, but he's a good, and that's with him being hurt basically the whole time he's been on the Dodgers.
Yeah, it's going to be about, like you're saying, getting on base, but more importantly, having versatility, because him not having that versatility really, really hamstrung the Dodgers over the first few rounds of the postseason last year, and ultimately, I don't know who had the conversation, but Dave he and Dave, whoever it was, decided, look, you're okay enough to play center field because we can't throw Andy Pages out there to start anymore in these final couple games. And then everything kind of worked out. But good to know Tommy Edman is on the mend. I want to go back because I was going to try to find a way to get Noah's super chat in. In a point of conversation, but instead we're just going to make it a point of conversation. Noah with the $1.99 super chat. Thank you very much, Noah. As you know, asking how much do you guys value pitchers with options? I will say I don't value them as much as Andrew Friedman and Brandon Gomes do, but I value them a lot.
I think there's value for sure. And he's talking about Emmett Sheehan. Emmett Sheehan does have 2 option years left, and there's value there, but if Emmett Sheehan's healthy, I don't think they anticipate using those options. Like, unless they are just putting Emmett Sheehan, River Ryan, and Gavin Stone on the lazy Susan, between
which is absolutely a reality.
Yeah,
let's be fair.
But that's also an argument in favor of trading one of those 3 guys, because you've got, Yamamoto, Snell, Ohtani, Glasnow, Roki Sasaki, plus those 3 guys at least, and that's if Justin Robleski's not a starter. That's if Kyle Hurt's not a starter. Like, they've got a ton of starting pitchers, even with the depth and everything. Like, when we're talking about these guys with, Tarik Skubal not having minor league options and Emmett Sheehan does, it doesn't mean anything to me in that context, because Tarik Skubal will either be the best pitcher in the Dodgers rotation or on the injured list. And either way, you don't need a guy with options if he's either great or hurt, and not that I have any reason to believe he's going to be hurt, other than the fact that he throws a baseball for a living, and those guys get hurt. But same with Blake Snell, all these guys. I don't mind on the pitching side having guys who don't have options as long as they're elite. Anthony Bonda doesn't have any options, and that's why he's probably not going to be on the team, because in the bullpen, they probably will value options more. But when we're talking about elite starting pitchers, I don't care about options at all, really.
Yeah, I mean, that is fair. Like I said, I think the front office probably values it a lot more, just so they can kind of move some pieces around as they need to, like that lazy Susan of pitchers that could be the 5th and 6th pitcher, because I would imagine Roki Sasaki kind of fits into that mix as well, not knowing what he's going to sort of look like coming out of spring training. Another thing on the other Dodgers headlines grab bag here, or from it, there was a weird thing that dropped today involving Freddie Freeman and his health and potentially being available for Team Canada for the WBC next spring. Team Canada's manager saying that he's getting some procedures done. This coming from Fabian Ardaya, and Andrew Friedman being like, I don't think there's anything going on. What's your take on all of this?
I think Freddie Freeman is ghosting Ernie Witt. Is what's happening.
Yes.
It's like, thanks, Ernie. I know I've done it the last 2 times, but I do, I've got this nagging thing that I may end up having to have something done on it. And so, probably don't count on me. Go get Harry Ford to play for, oh no, he's Great Britain. Whoever you got, go find a different Canadian to play first base for you, because Josh Naylor, he's Canadian, right?
Hey, I think so. Yeah.
I think Freddie Freeman is trying to let Ernie Witt down easily, him rejecting him.
It's like, dang, the thing about my schedule is like, I got a thing. I'm real sick.
Early March. Yeah. Washing my hair.
I've used that on people a few times. I'm busy that day. It's like, I didn't even tell you the day. I'm busy that day. I can tell you that much.
Just wait till Freddie gets an invite to the DeVore Man Cave. See what kind of excuses come up then.
Unnecessary, but always necessary burn for our friend Richie Flores. Another thing involving the WBC, Teoscar Hernandez will not participate in the event. This comes from an interview he did and via the great David Vassay. Everybody loves DV. Of course, everybody loves DV. I got no problems with DV. I really like him. I'm just being unnecessarily playful here.
Local reporter.
But yeah, he's not going to play for the Dominican Republic in the World Baseball Classic. He wants to focus on health and recovery because, as we know, he was pretty dang beat up last year with various injuries to that lower body. And that brings to another part of the conversation. The Teoscar Hernandez trade rumors kind of continue. Carlos Garcia, much earlier in the chat, asking, will Teo get traded? He asked me 2 days ago. I would have said no. I really don't see it happening, but maybe it's something that's on the table.
Yeah, it seems like the Dodgers are still open to the idea. Katie Wu, as it says on the screen, says the Dodgers continue to kick the tires on trading Teo. And I believe it was Katie Wu in that article with Fabian who mentioned that the Royals are one of the teams that might be interested. Mm-hmm. And along those lines, a guy the Royals traded for last year was Mike Yastrzemski. And Yastrzemski just signed with the Braves today. And reportedly, the Royals were interested in bringing Wazowski back again. And so now that one of their potential outfield targets is no longer available, might increase their interest in Teoscar Hernandez, perhaps. I don't know. I don't follow the Royals very closely at all. Mm-hmm. I don't know what their DH situation is like, what their outfield situation is like, if they'd be looking at him as an outfielder or a DH. But, it seems like they might be interested at least. And, if the Dodgers can find a trading partner, obviously you have to replace him. But, I don't hate the idea if they can replace him with somebody who's better at defense, even if the offensive ceiling isn't as high. Obviously, you don't want to go with just a Billy Hamilton out there who can play defense but not hit at all.
Yeah.
But
On that, let's do this or that. Do you take Teo in right field, or you take, let's say in this case, Cody Bellinger in right field? What do you think is better for this team? And put personal aversions aside, make it about what's on paper.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by Cody Bellinger's new profile as a hitter. The fact that he has become a contact hitter. I understand people's concerns about him being a better hitter in Yankee Stadium and all that. Mm-hmm. But I also think Cody Bellinger is a different and in many ways better hitter than he was when he was on the Dodgers. Definitely a better hitter than he was his last couple of years with the Dodgers. He'll never have the peaks that 2019 Cody Bellinger had. But the fact that he's gone from a dude who struck out a ton and couldn't hit lefties very well to a guy who doesn't strike out much at all and hits lefties really well. We know he can play a good right field or even center field. If they want to move Andy Pages to right field, I think if they got Bellinger, that would be my ideal defensive alignment would be Belly in center and Pages in right. I think Belly in center and Pages in right is probably better than Pages in center and Teo in right.
Yeah, I agree.
But both of those solutions currently don't have a left fielder. And that's where, like I said, you're going to have to get two outfielders because they already need an outfielder. If they trade Teo, they're going to have to get a second outfielder, which they can do. But, we saw today that the Dodgers are interested in Kyle Tucker if he's interested in a 3 or 4 year deal, which we said, a couple of weeks ago that would probably likely be their approach. There are guys available either in free agency or the trade market. You got Wardo, having Ryan Ward and signing Harrison Bader as your fourth outfielder who can play all over and do some platooning with Wardo. If you bring in Cody Bellinger and Harrison Bader, I don't think that's a terrible outfield of Bader, Belly, Pages, and Wardo, but it doesn't have the big hit potential, I think, that Teo includes.
Yeah.
You're counting on Pages bouncing back and Wardo being a major league hitter.
It's you wish you had a crystal ball and the crystal ball worked and you're able to kind of see what these numbers look like. Just like I, in 2021 offseason, would have liked the crystal ball to know that Evan Phillips was going to be so important and such an integral part of the Dodgers for the next few years. Right now, I am very interested, if not just for the science of it all and seeing what an outfield of Ryan Ward, Andy Pages, and Teoscar Hernandez looks like. I don't know if that ends the conversation enough here, but that's, I think, where I'm going to decide to transition forward here. I loved a few people talking about what the trade would be. Listen, I will trade Teoscar Hernandez for Bobby Witt Jr., which, by the way, should have been our answer we were looking for when we're deciphering and sorting through the better than Mookie Betts shortstops in the game. It's probably Robert Witt Jr.
Yeah, unfortunately, I probably thought of his name, but he's not going anywhere.
You just don't
Dansby
think Royals
Swanson,
either.
You could picture the Cubs getting cheap and deciding to trade Dansby Swanson. That's why that was the name I settled on. Mm-hmm. Bobby Witt's not going anywhere. You give me Bobby Witt if you can. Give me Gunnar Henderson. But I don't think those guys are going anywhere. Really quick, though, before we transition, talking about crystal balls, I always think back to the 2013-2014 offseason when we talk about crystal balls, because I'm going to read you the names of some of the big free agents who signed that offseason, okay?
All right.
Robinson Cano signed with the Mariners. Jacoby Ellsbury with the Yankees. Hiroki Kuroda with the Yankees. Mike Napoli with the Red Sox. Carlos Beltran with the Yankees. Curtis Granderson with the Mets. Shin-Soo Choo with the Rangers. Bartolo Colon with the Mets. Carlos Ruiz re-signing with the Phillies. Go down. Keep going down. Keep going down. Guess what? When you get down to – this is sorted by – how much WAR they had in the 3 previous seasons combined. Mm-hmm. You have to go all the way down to, I'm going to have to do a Command F to see. You have to go down to number 126 on this list to get to Justin Turner signs with the Los Angeles Dodgers. that's Justin Turner is always my go-to example when we're talking about crystal balls, because who would you rather have, Justin Turner or any of the 125 better players who signed in free agency that offseason? Justin Turner was the best signing of that offseason. And so you never know what's going to happen. Doesn't mean that always works. You don't always just, okay, we want number 126 on this list this year because that's the proven formula. But the Dodgers saw something in Justin Turner. And when you look at guys like Robinson Cano, and maybe are we segueing into Pete Alonso next?
Because we could, but I've pocketed this one from Michael asking earlier. Should MLB make a deadline for a free agent to be signed? If there's a deadline, I don't think there's a Justin Turner trade or signing in that 2013-14 offseason.
I hate the idea of a deadline. I know people look at the NBA free agency and they love how exciting it is, but then nothing else happens the rest of the offseason. And for me, partly as a content creator, but also just as a fan, I think it's fun that we get, it can get a little annoying, especially that year when, who was it, Machado and Harper, that both took forever to sign. They both waited till spring training because each one wanted the other one to sign first to set the market and stuff. You can get tired of that, but as long as we get stuff like this, where Pete Alonso signed today, Edwin Diaz signed yesterday, you got some stuff happening, and then it'll get quiet for Christmas, and then we'll get more. The Japanese players who've been posted, they'll sign with their teams, and I kind of like how it gets drawn out, and it gives us stuff to talk about and argue about all off season, rather than just staring out the window and waiting for spring.
Yeah, I agree. And I think for like you mentioned, for us, particularly the content creator side of it, we would probably...
How douchey is it to refer to ourselves as content creators? When I got these canvases in the mail...
Do you want it to be analysts?
When I got these, my son said, "What are you, Dad, an influencer?" I'm like, absolutely I am.
Hey, didn't you just say you and your wife cleaned your office? What's going on there? What's going on with your fan cave? It looked awful dirty in that shot now.
Really? No, there's too many baseball cards on the table there.
Well, you have look at that. Yeah, baseball cards, a cup, random bags. What do you throw away, trash?
A random bag. This is my hat bag, my podcast hat
the
bag.
Famous hat bag.
Dust off of it.
Is that a Chinese food bag?
It is
riveting content here.
Yeah.
Content creators, baby.
Eric, please reuse this bag. And I am reusing it to keep dust off my podcasting hat.
It's
actually pretty tidy.
You know what? They wrote a song about him in the early 2000s. It was Real Man of Genius.
I remember before 9/11 when that song was Real American Heroes.
Yeah. Then they ruined it. Look what they took away from us.
We can't let the terrorists win.
Yeah.
Shout out to Drip Show Shop for those canvases
absolutely.
I just showed, by the way.
Yeah. All of my drip shows they're around. I need to put them into a shot. Maddie Man asking, wait, what's happening? Things are happening.
You're getting a tour of my office, baby.
We're about to talk. Crap about the Mets. Richie with a $4.99 super chat. Richie Flores, appreciate you. Says Quan and Tucker gives me Machado vibes. Don't f with the clubhouse. Unlike your co-host from the 45th state, Freddie values the DeVore man cave. Are you in the 45th state?
I live in Utah. The 45th sounds about right. I know it became a state in 1890. I don't know what number that was, but I don't know who Ferdy is, but I think she was in Black Eyed Peas, right?
Yeah.
Did I get that band right?
You did. We're very proud of you. How do you do, fellow kids? Alexander asking someone help me find the IE Dahlia video account roasting Clint. Go to my Twitter. It's on the screen. I shared it or quote tweeted it, whatever you call it. Yeah. Well, you can't. I think it's reposting now because Elon ruined it. But anyways, Mark asking is Clint ever going to take one of those guitars off the wall and play something? Probably not. So I had a little bit of time finally to kind of play with my stuff. Pause for effect, recently, and I have not played guitar in so long. I'm just bad at it. Like, I could still kind of dick around and play a little bit of something, but I've lost it. I put all the focus here as being an influencer and content creator.
Content creation takes up all his time.
Richie also saying the DeVore Man Cave is treated like the temple it is, Jeff. No piles to be found. I will attest to this. Richie and Mrs. Richie, probably mostly Michelle, keeps it very, very clean in the man cave. All right, let's talk trash about the Mets. New York Mets, they 1 day ago, they lose Edwin Diaz to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Today, they lose Pete Alonso to the Baltimore Orioles, 5-year, $155 million deal. And I love everything about this because, one, great for Pete Alonso because it feels like he has just been yanked around for the last few years. No respect on the name of a dude who consistently hits 30, 35 homers, consistently has an OPS in like the 750 on the low side range, drives in runs. Yeah, he is a god-awful first baseman. Yeah, he sometimes struggles to get on base, but he's trying. He's trying, but the what do they call that? Crashing out. The crash out from Mets fans. So something special today, Jeff.
Yeah. It's a weird one because you can understand why the Mets didn't want to give 5 years to a 31-year-old who is built like, what's he? I can't even think of a, he's not built like any other human being. At least no other professional athlete.
He is built like PlayStation 1 graphics. He's just very blocky.
Yeah, blocky, but also
and
curvy
round
in weird ways. Yeah.
The way we like him.
Yeah. And so I expect that Pete Alonso is going to be not good for the entirety of this 5-year contract. I don't know how much of it he'll be not good for, but I don't think it's going to be good for the next 5 years. I think he'll always have power, but like you said, his on-base percentage this year was solid. He's playing for a contract. He had a 347 on base
pretty
percent.
Up and down.
Last year, 329. Year before that, 318. He's got a career 341 on base percentage. Not terrible, but when you're a guy with 50 home run power, 40 home run power, you ought to be getting more walks than, like, his career high in walks is 72. And that was the year he hit 53 homers. You should be walking more than that.
But you can't hit dingers if you're walking.
You know what? It works for some people. Barry Bonds managed to hit a couple homers while he was walking,
walking straight to
nobody
that
knows why.
Steroid
Nobody
dealer.
knows how.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Pete Alonso, I would guess he's going to end up being a guy who has power, but doesn't get on base often enough to be a good hitter, probably starting in year 3 of this 5-year deal. So I totally understand why the Mets didn't want to give him that money. I also think a guy who I've mentioned before on Twitter, the Warmonger, who's a Phillies fan, but also just into stats, knows his stuff. He made a point today on Twitter that I've thought about a lot. Juan Soto probably ought to be the Mets first baseman because right field and first base have similar defensive values. Juan Soto is a terrible right fielder, and chances are he will be a better defensive first baseman than he is right fielder. And Warmonger made some good points in favor of that argument. And so, maybe that's part of their thinking is why would we sign Pete Alonso to play for us till he's 36 and weighs 470 pounds when we have Juan Soto, who probably makes our team better right now if he moves to first base.
I mean, if they're moving him to first base, though, in the second year of that deal,
he's already a right fielder. Right field is already it's the second least valuable defensive position. First base isn't that much less valuable.
I can't imagine him being on board with it, and then all of a sudden they're creating more issues. But we don't need to put a lot of stock into realigning things for the Mets. I think we really just need to poke fun of the fact that I don't know what they're doing. I mean, their offseason is trading Brandon Nimmo for Marcus Semien, signing Devin Williams, who admitted he didn't really want to go there. He would have preferred to go to the Cubs, but they weren't willing to meet the $51 million that he got with the Mets. And then they let their star closer walk for a pretty reasonable deal, for $3 million. They couldn't match $3 million deal, which We didn't talk about it since going live yesterday morning, which that feels like 15 days ago. One of the reasons Edwin Diaz said that he was kind of like, F these guys, was they didn't tell him anything about that Devin Williams deal. There was no communication there. I don't know if there was, an expectation that they keep him up to date in their, transactions, but they didn't. And he said, bye, Felicia, and he went to the Dodgers. And what else? And then a day later, letting their star slugger, homegrown superstar, Pete Alonso, the home run derby's own Pete Alonso, letting him walk. I don't know, man. There's just something. Stevie Cohen, who has all this money, is going cheap. Is David Stearns taking over? But it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad what's going on there with the Mets.
Yeah, I can see that. I don't know that, like, if we're going back to that Justin Turner offseason, I don't think the Yankees regretted letting Robinson Cano walk to the Mariners.
Yeah.
Even though, he had a couple good seasons.
Yeah,
and
he was
then
still
had
D's.
Yeah, speaking of guys who were traded for Edwin Diaz, he had a great season for the Mariners and then a couple solid seasons, but, ultimately.
And a PED suspension.
Didn't by the end of his contract, and that one was, I think, an 8-year contract, and teams were giving him away by the end of it. And I think Robinson Cano, you could make a decent case, was a better athletic specimen than Pete Alonso, if we're being understatements. But all of this to say, I get why the Mets didn't do it, but also I don't think the Mets are a destination right now.
No,
I think
not.
The fact is, the Mets. Did you see that crash out from some New York media guy talking about how Edwin Diaz can't handle the smoke? And it's like these New York fans wear it as a point of pride that players can't handle the smoke of playing in New York. And it's like, how about instead just stop having so much smoke, you a-hole? Like, make it a fun place to play. You don't have to let your personality shine all the time. Yeah. You can just let people enjoy playing for your favorite team. Because, you can take pride in the fact that it takes a special kind of player to be able to survive in New York. Well, guess what? The Dodgers play in a place where you don't got to be a special kind of player. You just got to be a good player and have a good attitude. And, I just don't understand the New York mindset. And I'm not even saying it's wrong, I guess, even though I'm definitely saying it's wrong. But I understand. Places are different. But I'm glad that the team I root for doesn't have to compete with the media landscape that's trying to drive players away from signing with us.
No, I mean, that's a great point. And we're hearing other things about, there being already kind of strife between Francisco Lindor and Juan Soto. And if that's after year one of that Soto deal, it does not seem like a destination. You could not have said it better. It is not a destination at all. If people enjoy, sprinting into the dugout to determine whether or not it was a New York rat or a New York mouse or whatever they were fighting about and then lied to the media. Yeah, you shouldn't have to fight media and fight your fans and fight each other to have a good time playing baseball. And I don't know. I think the way that season unfolded for them last year, that it wasn't, sure, Devin Williams, Edwin Diaz not getting that call about the Devin Williams sighting. That probably played a little bit of a factor, but I'm pretty sure the way that season just kind of spiraled last year, that's more of a factor. He sees the Dodgers going out there having fun. He hears from his brother, Alexis Diaz, the Dodgers are a really good time, and they also care about their players as we're I don't know what they're doing. Apparently also Cohen is worried more about a casino now. I don't even know that storyline. But apparently, there's supposed to be a casino and a village going up around Citi Field. Hey, it sounds a lot like Frank McCourt, huh? When's the divorce coming? I've seen this show before.
Yeah, I saw somebody say that Frank McCourt was interested in buying the Padres. I don't know if that was a joke or not, but
do it. Do it.
Well, not like Frank McCourt could ever get approval from other MLB owners to buy another team.
He's fixed now. He's all better. He they tried to oust him with some soccer organization, but then he fixed it or something. I don't know. I try to avoid thinking about Frank McCourt. It's general rule. That's all I got.
Yeah.
But I don't have much else. I just wanted to clown on the Mets, lol Mets. I feel bad for Mets fans. There's a lot of really good Mets content creators as well who I watched Giraffe Neck Mark absolutely just flame out. Actually, he didn't flame out. He was pretty reasonable about it, but it makes me wish we covered every once in a while covered another team that just like imagine now it's hard to cover the Angels because nobody would watch us.
Yeah.
Just covering another team that wasn't as just perfect in most ways as the Dodgers are.
Yeah, it's definitely we are lucky we were born into what we were born into. Should we talk Hall of Fame a little bit?
Yeah, might as well. A lot of people are here hanging out with us. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Extended edition of the show tonight. Like, subscribe, doing all that kind of stuff. You guys help us out a whole bunch. I also want to say, much earlier in the chat, Roy Estrada said, Clint asking me, saying we need to have Katie Wu on the show. She will be on with Alana Rizzo and I tomorrow. Dodgers territory, 2 o'clock Pacific time. We will be live and breaking down everything from the winter meetings. So tune in for that one. But
have her on this show at some point too.
Yeah, might as well. I don't know. When I made my own channel, I was like, dealing with guests is a whole pain because you have to like think. And you guys can tell from watching me, I don't think. I just show up. Thinking's ghetto.
It's true. Yeah.
I just show up to be pretty. Anyways, no, we'll year 3 of All Dodgers will have more guests and other things and more kitchens and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, we wanted to talk about the Hall of Fame of the final bit of grab bag of other Dodgers headlines that we have not touched on. And spoiler, there will eventually be a Richie voicemail. I think there was contractually obligated to make sure we get Richie's voicemail in. Plus, he has some thoughts really about the whole Jeff Kent versus Fernando thing, and Fernando is Richie's guy. But yeah, there was one new Hall of Famer added to the Hall of Fame with the Contemporary Baseball Era Committee, whatever the hell they are. 16-member committee of dudes voted Jeff Kent into the Hall of Fame, and end of list. He got 14 of the 16 votes. Former Dodger Jeff Kent, and Fernando was on that. Did not get in. I think he got fewer than he got fewer than 5 votes. I think it was like 3 or 4 votes, which I think that's egregious. But which way do you want to handle this first or take this first?
Yeah, I'll start by saying personally, I think all 8 of those guys should probably be in the Hall of Fame for different reasons. And I understand people who would never vote for Bonds or Clemens. Mm-hmm. I put Bonds and Clemens in a little bit different category than guys like Manny Ramirez and Alex Rodriguez, who did steroids after Major League Baseball had actually made rules against it. I think Mark McGwire should absolutely be in the Hall of Fame. Guys like that. And Bonds and Clemens have in addition to the steroids, they're also both jerks. But the fact that Jeff Kent got in means that we're not really holding jerk against guys. Yeah. But so I understand why people wouldn't vote for Bonds and Clemens, but all 8 of those guys I think are probably Hall of Famers. If I had a vote, each member of the committee can vote for up to 3 players. My votes would have gone to Mattingly, Murphy, and Fernando, partly because they are the 3 who have been waiting the longest. But as somebody who grew up in the 80s, you can't tell the story of 80s baseball without Don Mattingly, Dale Murphy, and Fernando Valenzuela. They are key elements of 80s baseball. And, Mattingly and Murphy both were constantly throughout their careers referred to as future Hall of Famers. Mm-hmm. And then they both had injuries. I think it was both back injuries, and they both just fell off a cliff. Mattingly's career ended very early. Murphy's ended early, but not as early as it probably should have. He was bad for a couple of years first. But at their peaks, Don Mattingly and Dale Murphy, both absolutely Hall of Famers. Fernando, same story, except his peak ended when he was like 25. Like from age 20 to 25, he was absolutely Hall of Fame quality pitcher. And then he pitched for like 12 more years after he stopped being a great pitcher. And I think
after Tommy ruined him. Yeah.
Yeah. However you want to put it. If Fernando Valenzuela had been forced to retire at age 25 because of injury, they might have made an exception to the have to have played 10 years rule and put him in the Hall of Fame. but instead he played for 12 more years or whatever and just wasn't very good. But for Fernando, the case isn't so much about on the field as the word fame in the name Hall of Fame. When you factor in everything about Fernando, his playing career and his impact on the city of Los Angeles, the game of baseball, the country of Mexico, all those things, like it's crazy that Fernando isn't in the Hall of Fame, even though from a baseball career standpoint, no, he didn't have a good enough career to be in the Hall of Fame. He should absolutely be in the Hall of Fame. And, so that's who I would have voted for, is those three guys.
Yeah. Of that list, I mean, I'm a tad on the younger side from you, so I don't know as much about Dale Murphy. Obviously, definitely know about Donnie Ballgame, and looking at Dale Murphy's numbers here, yeah, you see that fall off, you see the injuries, you see kind of the
and you see those back-to-back MVPs and those 5 Gold Glove awards. Came up as a catcher and ended up a Gold Glove center fielder. Like Dale Murphy was a true 5-tool player.
And the biggest problem I think with this, because I didn't know about that everybody gets 3 votes factor of this. I agree with you about Bonds, about Clemens. Sheffield, maybe not so much because of the numbers or him being a prick, just more so he doesn't have those counting numbers. Yeah, he hit over 500 homers, but we're at a point now where there's a whole bunch of dudes who have over 500 homers in their career. I don't remember if Sheff got to over 6. I don't think so.
Everybody with over 500 homers who doesn't have steroid suspicions is in the Hall of Fame. Sheffield just ended up at 509, but he had over 60 WAR. Like he was a
great player. Imagine if he could field. It would have. I mean, he wasn't a terrible defensive outfielder for a good amount of different points in time, but the roids didn't have the numbers and was kind of an unlike prick during his playing career. That's where he doesn't get in, but. You can't tell the story of baseball in the late 80s and the 90s and into the the 2000s without Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, and they were a symptom of that era, not so much outliers in that era. Bud Selig made it possible for them to continue, steroiding because they needed to save baseball. Same with, Mark McGwire. They needed to save baseball after that 94 strike, and dingers is what saved baseball there in the 90s. And I mean, everybody remembers, if you were around, if you were alive, you remember that 98 homer chase between Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire, reinvigorating interest in the game. But where we get to this, you have to have all of these names on this list because these voters for the last 10 years, 15 years, or whatever it's been, have said no to Bonds and no to Clemens, and now you're going to have this backlog of potential Hall of Famers that aren't going to get in, or that are going to fall off the list, like Fernando does here, I think, technically, or he has one more chance in 5 years, right?
And that's kind of the problem, is these rules are designed to get Bonds and Clemens off the ballot, so that people don't have to think about them anymore. The rule is if you get fewer than 5 votes, you're not eligible in the next round, and then so they'll become eligible again in 2031 or something.
Yeah.
But then if they get fewer than 5 votes again that year, then they're off the ballot forever. And that's how it was designed. This was designed to get Bonds and Clemens off the ballot forever. But Fernando Valenzuela is catching strays here, because there were 8 guys who probably had Hall of Fame caliber careers. And I am more of a big Hall guy than some people. So you could quibble about Delgado and Sheffield, but at least 6 guys who have a good case to be in the Hall of Fame. Fernando didn't get the votes because he didn't have the right numbers, people in the room advocating for him.
Fair.
Harold Baines had the perfect storm when he got in 6 years ago. He had the perfect storm of his former manager, Tony La Russa, being on the panel, and I forget who else, but he had former teammates, his former manager in the group doing
something. You broke up.
Did I freeze up?
Yeah.
Am I back now?
You are back.
I'm not going to name a name, but I talked to one of the guys on that committee that voted in Harold Baines. Mm-hmm. I talked to him the day that vote was announced, and he told me the reason he voted for Harold Baines was because Edgar Martinez was about to get voted in by the writers, and Harold Baines had 600 more career hits than Edgar Martinez. That's why he voted for Harold Baines. And so, you get the right combination of former teammates, former managers, and maybe not the most hashtag mathy kind of guys there are, and you get votes. And so, yeah, if the ghost of Tommy Lasorda and the ghost of Vin Scully were on this committee, Fernando would have got the votes. He would have had people in the room advocating for him.
Yeah,
but instead it was, I think Ozzie Smith was on the panel, former Dodgers rival, is Ozzie Smith going to make the case for Fernando Valenzuela? Probably not,
not, yeah.
And so it's kind of silly how these panels are made up. These committees are made up because it's
a rigged system.
Yeah. And you've got a ton of guys who are in the Hall of Fame because Frankie Frisch was in charge of the Veterans Committee for 20 years. And so everybody who was teammates with Frankie Frisch made the Hall of Fame. And so there are a ton of guys worse than Fernando Valenzuela in the Hall of Fame right now because Frankie Frisch liked them. And so what we need is to get Mike Scioscia on the committee next time, or Earl Hershiser, or, some of these people who will speak up for Fernando and say, look, guys, we should have done this while he was alive. Let's not miss our chance again now. And let's look at the word fame and Hall of Fame and all that Fernando stands for. And I assume Richie's about to make some of those same points in his voicemail. Should we listen to that?
Yeah, we got a voicemail from Richie. I'm glad you brought that up because I would have forgotten about it if I'm being honest. But Richie has some thoughts about Jeff Kent being in and Fernando Valenzuela not being in the Hall of Fame. And I will say, voicemails will officially be back. I will officially be back on Saturday. We'll have some Saturday streams to end the year. So guys, no, we're not taking any calls for today's show. But if you have some thoughts about the Dodgers offseason, about laughing more at the Mets and all that kind of stuff, call that number 562-373-4095, and we will be live. I will be live at some point Saturday morning. But anyways, here's what Richie had to say about the Hall of Fame voting.
Part of the criteria of being considered for the Hall of Fame is twofold. Of course, career numbers and on-the-field achievement, but even more so, and often overlooked because we're so obsessed with numbers these days, is your impact to the game, the culture that you created, and how it affected the game overall as a quality product. And Fernando Valenzuela definitely falls into that category. And even though his numbers are not that great, but he was Rookie of the Year and the Cy Young Award winner in 1981. But more importantly, he brought back the Latino community that was still bitter and angry because of the Hispanic neighborhoods that were torn down in Chavez Ravine to build Dodger Stadium in the first place. And when Fernando came on the scene, he not only electrified the entire city of Los Angeles, but the country as a whole. And Latinos came out and grows back to Dodger Stadium, and it hasn't changed since. Walk around Dodger Stadium any given year since his passing or even since his retirement. How many Fernando jerseys do you see running around the ballpark? And to make matters worse, Jeff Kent got in. Jeff Kent, one of the most red ass of red ass. He was bad with the fans. He was bad with the players. What, Jeffrey Dahmer wasn't available? Charles Manson didn't want a part of being elected into the Hall of Fame? That's a slap in the face to Dodger fans, to Dodger Nation, to my family that holds him in high esteem. He was a big part of my childhood. He was my father's favorite player. And anybody who worshiped the ground that he walks on because of what he did and what he meant to our community and him not being elected and the 16 members of the committee, he only got less than 5 votes and most of them were his peers at one time. That's just absolutely embarrassing. It's just a total embarrassment. And that's the reason why the Hall of Fame is a farce. He gets in because of what he did for the game and not because of his numbers. Period.
And that was Richie sounding off big Jeff Kent fan. You know, I don't mind Jeff Kent getting in, honestly. I liked Kent in his time with the Dodgers. He was, I met him when he was with the Dodgers as well. He was nice to me, and that's all that matters. But Fernando needs to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with Kent being in. I didn't. He would have been my seventh. Like I'd say he's seventh most deserving of the 8 on the ballot. So it was weird to me that he's the one who got in. But like I said, I think all 8 probably belong in. So but I agree with all of Richie's points about Fernando for sure.
Yeah,
and I saw somebody in the chat.
So you need more Los Angeles voters, and he's gone. Yeah, your screen went dark there for a second. You need some people who understand like Los Angeles culture and history and all that kind of stuff throughout the 80s. But you were saying which comment?
Somebody was talking about Sandy Koufax and how he also had a short peak.
Yeah.
To be fair, Sandy Koufax's peak was significantly better than Fernando's. If we're talking purely on the baseball standpoint, Sandy Koufax was a Hall of Famer. His peak gets him in, absolutely deserving Hall of Famer. Fernando's peak probably still needs a little help from the cultural impact side of things. But for me, that is, when you talk about Don Mattingly, like the impact, everybody knows who Don Mattingly is. Mm-hmm. You don't even need to say his last name. You call him Donnie Baseball, people know who that is.
Yeah.
Dale Murphy, everybody loves Dale Murphy. People use a character clause all the time to keep guys out of the Hall of Fame, but it doesn't say you can only use it to keep guys out. Dale Murphy, give him that little statistical nudge he needs. He's not quite there statistically. Best dude in baseball. Everybody loves him. Like great ambassador for the game. Just everything about Dale Murphy screams Hall of Famer. And Fernando, the impact he had. And that's why those 3 guys would have been my votes, because they're the 3 guys who aren't going to get the votes based on their career WAR, you know? And I love WAR. I think it's a great tool, but I think it's overused in these Hall of Fame votes.
What is it good for? I mean, nowadays, for sure, it's really overused in the arguments and all that kind of stuff. There needs to be a blend. There needs to be some sort of people were talking about in the chat. There needs to be nuance to these votes. It's not just about the numbers. It's not just about the impact. It's not about whether or not they said hi or bye to you when you were covering the team, in 1972 or whatever. It should be. Well, maybe they're not that old anymore, but still, to that point. It should be a hodgepodge of criteria that make up a Hall of Famer, and for what Fernando meant to the game, and if he had just got to that 200 win mark, man, I think that would have made a difference. Would he fall? I'm bad at math. You know the numbers. I think 27 wins away from 200 wins in his career. I think that makes that little bit of a difference because wins matter.
And Dale Murphy had 398 career homers. Mm-hmm. If he gets 2 more homers, he's probably in. It's these round numbers. Hey,
Fred McGriff finished 4 homers shy of 500. He made it.
7 shy, I think. 7, if you get 493.
Yeah,
same as Lou Gehrig. But yeah, I mean, and you look at these guys, and would you make an argument that if Don Mattingly had played for 6 more years and been bad, but added to his counting stats, if Dale Murphy played 5 more years and wasn't very good, but ended his career with 500 homers because he kept playing, he'd be in the Hall of Fame. And it's like, so really you'd put somebody in because they had 5 bad years tacked on to their Hall of Fame career? Like that's where the WAR gets used too much, because it's just a cumulative stat, but you got to look at that peak. And that's why Sandy Koufax, just legit elite peak. And for Dale Murphy, back-to-back MVP awards, those Gold Gloves in center field, it was an elite peak. He was the best player in baseball, or at least right up there with Mike Schmidt for a big chunk of the 80s. It's crazy to me. And yeah.
One final name I'll throw in, because you're old and you lived it as well. I mean, I was around for it as well. But Hideo Nomo, we're talking more about cultural impact. Do you think there was enough peak for Nomo to be considered a Hall of Famer? Because that almost feels like all cultural impact to me.
Yeah, that Nomo would just be cultural. I know I'm talking about WAR, but if we're comparing careers, Fernando had 35 WAR, something like that in his career. Noma had 21, 22.
Yeah. There was a number of years where he was ass.
Nomo's first 2 years, he was very good. He finished fourth in the Cy Young voting both years. But Fernando won the Cy Young Award in his rookie year, and then could have won it another year. We probably deserved to win it another time. Hideo Nomo was a good pitcher, played for a total of 12 years, so he had a short career and was only really good for probably maybe 5 of those years. I'm really good for 2 of them, and then pretty good for another 5.
Yeah.
And then he was bad for most of the others. Like he was just, Nomo, it would just be cultural impact.
Which I feel there's enough deserving there, because he is like the most important, the most influential Japanese player, not just pitcher, but player. But if there's no Nomo, there is probably no Shohei. There's no Jeff, because his computer is angry at being on for this long. There's maybe no Roki. There's no Yamamoto. There's definitely no Yu Darvish if there's not if there's not Hideo Nomo. So that's got to mean something.
Yeah, and I guess maybe that goes back, and this maybe argues against one of the points I made when I said you can't tell the story of 80s baseball without Don Mattingly and Dale Murphy and Fernando Valenzuela. And I saw people in the chat talking about that with regards to Clemens and Bonds and Fernando. And the fact is, Fernando Valenzuela is all over the Hall of Fame. He is not enshrined in the Hall of Inductees in the Hall of Fame. You will see a ton of Fernando Valenzuela if you go to the Hall of Fame. You'll see a ton of Hideo Nomo. You'll see a ton of Barry Bonds.
Just won't see a plaque.
They are in the Hall of Fame. They just don't have the plaque. And that's where one of the arguments is we're honoring the player. So that, I get it. Like, you don't want to honor I don't know. I should stop talking because my computer is angry at me.
It's angry at you. I think Richie found a way to hack your computer. He's getting tired of your crap or something like that.
I'm the one who remembered Richie sending a voicemail. I'm just saying.
This is fair. Well, I would have remembered. I did put it in my notes. But Diane says we're at 150 likes. Let's get to 200. I like the first edition of it. She says let's get to 20,011 likes. I would like that as well. Either of those would be great. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us and supporting the show through this extended edition. I think right now, though, I definitely appreciate most of all Seth Klein for appreciating my war reference. Good God, y'all.
Yeah. I got it. I didn't appreciate it.
Yeah, I know you got it. You're old and you know
my question is, were you quoting the song or are you just quoting Chris Tucker?
Let's quote the song. How dare you, sir?
Did you know the song before Rush Hour?
Yes. I'm a music boy.
Just making sure.
Do you not see the guitars that I don't play? Big time music guy here.
You're only 40 years old.
Yeah, this is fair.
That's songs from what, 1967?
Yes. I was there. Anyways, I think it is more than time to hit the wrap it up button, guys. We appreciate you hanging out with us on this unexpectedly extended Wednesday edition of the show. We had a lot of things to talk about, and we talked about them. So that's it. If there's nothing tomorrow to do, we probably won't be here. If there's nothing on Friday, we probably won't be here. Dodgers Territory will be live tomorrow, Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. Tune in for that. Myself, Alana Rizzo, Katie Wu, talking about the thing. If you guys want more Jeff, he was on Dodger Blue Dream, part of the Bleav Network podcast as well, with Richard Parks, I believe his name is. Cool guy, really cool concept podcast he has running. So check out Jeff's stuff. I think we just retweeted it with the All Dodgers Instagram page, which we don't use enough. And I probably need to do something about that. But anyways, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for hanging out with us here on this edition of the show. We appreciate you. I'll push it again. Hit that like button if you liked anything that happened today. Hit that subscribe button if you liked anything. Definitely hit that subscribe button if you hated it. All the subscriptions mean the same. If you want to continue the conversation, check out our Discord by signing up on Patreon or YouTube members. It's $5 a month to support the show, support myself, Jeff, independent Dodgers coverage here online. line. It goes to us, not to other greedy corporate entities. Your super chats here go to us, not to other greedy corporate entities. Scan that QR code to join on Patreon or click the links in the description of this video. Check it out. If you don't want to do that, again, hit that like button, subscribing, sharing it, rating, reviewing the podcast version of this, and listening also helps us out a whole bunch. All Dodgers is presented by FanDuel, part of the Bleav Network podcast. That is Jeff Snyder. I messed up that time. That is Jeff Snyder. I am Clint Pasillas. Find us on those social media platforms. Find I.E. Doyer burning me through my retweets. And you got anything else to add before we say bye?
1970 is when Edmund Starr's most famous version of that war song came out. So, yeah.
Bye.